Imagine that, on the very ground where you stand now. One of the most colossal predators that ever existed may have left its mark. A monster nearly 14 meters long, with razor-sharp jaws and frightening speed for something its size. A hunter so fierce that even the largest herbivorous dinosaurs trembled around him. This is the Giganotosaurus, an enigma from prehistory that defied the rules of nature. But do we know its true face? In the next few minutes, you will discover that Hollywood got it wrong, a lot, in its representation. Let's delve into its anatomy, its habits, and its forgotten history, reconstructing this colossal predator piece by piece. What if I told you he could be even more dangerous than a T-Rex? In 1993, a man walked through one of the most remote regions of Argentine Patagonia. Your name? Ruben Carolina, an amateur paleontologist. He had no idea that that day would be forever marked in the history of science. Between layers of fossilized sediments, Carolini spotted something unusual: giant bones emerging from the dry soil. What he found was nothing less than the skeleton of one of the largest carnivorous dinosaurs in history. 2 years later, scientists Coria and Salgado made the discovery official and named the giant Giganotosaurus carolinii, which means giant southern lizard. But there was something even more surprising about this fossil. It was 70% complete. For paleontology, this is a true treasure, as it allowed the animal to be reconstructed with a level of precision rarely seen. And when they started to put the puzzle together, they realized something that would shock the world. The Tyrannosaurus Rex, the much glorified king of dinosaurs, may not have been the biggest of them all. Yes, Giganotosaurus was larger in length at around 13 to 14 meters, almost the size of a city bus. And in 1998, another fossil found in the same region showed that it could even be 8% higher than the original specimen. This raised a question that divides scientists to this day. Who was the largest land carnivore of all time? To understand the grandeur of Giganotosaurus, we need to travel 99 million years into the past, to a completely different world. South America was not yet isolated as it is today. The continent was part of the ancient supercontinent Gondwana, sharing fauna with Africa, Antarctica, and Australia. And here's a fascinating detail. For millions of years, South America was home to some of the largest land animals that ever lived. This included colossal herbivorous dinosaurs, such as the Andysaurus, which could reach 18 meters in length. And where there are giant prey, there are equal predators. Giganotosaurus lived at a time when tyrannosaurs did not yet dominate the world. The iconic T-Rex would only emerge about 30 million years later. In place of the tyrannosaurids, another group of predators reigned, the Carcharodontosaurideos. If that name sounds complicated, imagine the animal itself. Giganotosaurus was a predator of elite, belonging to the same lineage as Carcharodontosaurus, who lived in North Africa, and Maposaurus, another South American giant. These animals were different from tyrannosaurs. Their bodies were more slender and elongated, built for speed and endurance, while T-Rex was a tank of muscle and crushing bite. But Giganotosaurus had something special. He hunted in a completely different way than tyrannosaurs, and this is where things get really interesting. Giganotosaurus has gained prominence among paleontologists and dinosaur fans since its discovery. But recently it was also introduced into cinema in Jurassic World Dominion, and that's when everything went wrong. The version we saw on the big screen was a grotesque monster with a swollen body, covered in osteoderms and an awkward posture, looking more like a crocodile than a real dinosaur. But the truth is that the real Giganotosaurus was much closer to a bird than a scaly reptile. He did not have osteoderms, those bony plates that appear in the film. His bone structure was light and aerodynamic, like that of an agile runner. Its skull was not short and robust like a T-Rex, but long and sharp, perfect for quick and precise cuts. And perhaps the biggest mistake of all, The famous fight against T-Rex in the film could never have happened. Why? Because they just never crossed the timeline. Giganotosaurus lived about 30 million years before the first T-Rex appeared in North America. If a modern-day human tried to fight an Australopithecus, a human ancestor from 3 million years ago, it would be more plausible. But no matter how much Hollywood has distorted his image, one thing is certain. Giganotosaurus was a formidable predator, and if there's anything more fascinating than its size, it's the way it hunted. Because contrary to what many people think, he didn't hunt alone. Now that we've uncovered the story of its discovery and its true appearance, it's time to get into its wildlife. How did an animal that size survive? Was he smart? And as an 8-ton dinosaur ran at almost 50 kilometers per hour? The answer lies in Cretaceous Patagonia, and that's where we go in the next part. Imagine a world where the days are hot and humid, the air vibrates with the sound of giant insects, and rivers snake through dense forests, cutting through a land dominated by colossal creatures. Now visualize a shadow moving between the trees, a huge, silent silhouette waiting for the right moment. Their eyes follow each movement of their prey, their muscles prepare for the attack. This is not a fictional monster. This is the Giganotosaurus, the true king of South America. In the first part, we discover her origin and dismantle Hollywood's mistakes about her appearance. But to understand what really made this predator one of the most feared of the Cretaceous, we need to explore their home, their hunting strategy, and their role in the deadly balance of prehistory. And believe me, the nature of that time was more brutal than any story you've ever heard. Today, the Patagonia, it is an arid, cold environment, a landscape of biting winds and lonely mountains. But 99 million years ago, this was a verdant paradise, a mosaic of rainforests, deep rivers, and vast plains where giant dinosaurs roamed. The shallow waters formed a network of intertwined rivers, creating swamps and lagoons where life teemed. It wasn't just a refuge for defenseless prey, it was a battlefield. Titanosaurs, immense herbivores such as Ankylosaurus, they moved in groups, creating real corridors in the vegetation, gigantic trails opened by the crushing weight of their bodies. The impact of these colossi altered the environment itself. The compacted earth prevented the growth of new trees, leaving the path open for predators that followed them, always lying in wait. And among them all, no hunter was more feared than Giganotosaurus. Now stop and think. If you were in the middle of this landscape, surrounded by these colossal animals, where would you hide? How would I survive? This world had no room for the weak. Every decision was a matter of life and death. And for a predator the size of Giganotosaurus, getting it wrong, it wasn't an option. Different from Tyrannosaurus rex, which relied on its brute strength and crushing bite, Giganotosaurus bet on speed and intelligence. But more than that, there is strong evidence that he hunted in groups. And that completely changes the way we imagine it. Think about lions. Alone they are powerful, but their true strength is in the pack. Now, amplify this to a pet 14 meters long, weighing more than 6 tons. And imagine what would happen if 2 or 3 of them attack a titanosaur at the same time. What once seemed impossible, bringing down a 30-ton colossus, became an calculated operation, a coordinated hunt that could last hours or even days. But the key to this strategy was resistance. Giganotosaurus had a streamlined body and long legs, which means that was not only a giant monster, but also an exceptional runner. Some estimates suggest it could reach speeds close to 50 kilometers per hour, almost twice the speed of a T-Rex. Now imagine this in practice. A flock of Giganotosaurus spots a group of Ankylosaurus moving towards the river. The attack does not begin immediately. Predators follow herbivores, watching for every weakness. A puppy away, a young person who looks sick, an adult who moves with difficulty. They are in no hurry. The midday heat wears down titanosaurs, while Giganotosaurus, with its highly efficient respiratory system, can maintain pursuit over long distances without exhausting yourself. And then, the final blow. When the prey finally falters, the gang advances in sync. Quick and precise bites, not to crush, but to cut deeply. The titanosaur begins to bleed, losing strength with each step. This was Giganotosaurus's hunting method, not to kill on the first attack, but to ensure that the prey dies through time and despair. A strategy that required patience, endurance, and a sharp mind. But the Giganotosaurus wasn't the only predator in this world. South America in the Cretaceous was a scene of constant disputes. In addition to the gigantic titanosaurs, there were other predators competing for the top of the food chain. Giganotosaurus, a smaller but incredibly agile and aggressive theropod. Vulturaptor, a fast and intelligent dinosaur, more similar to a velociraptor than a giant. Oxalia, the largest spinosaurid in South America, possibly rivaling Giganotosaurus itself. But none of them could directly compete with a bunch of Giganotosaurus. They were the prehistoric hunting dogs, a team of assassins who worked together to take down even the biggest prey on Earth. And while Tyrannosaurus dominated the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere belonged to these fast and relentless monsters. But every dynasty comes to an end, and what happened to the Giganotosaurus is still a mystery. The question few ask is, if Giganotosaurus was so formidable, why did it disappear? Unlike tyrannosaurs, which thrived until the end of the Cretaceous, Carcharodontosaurids disappeared around 90 million years ago. No more recent fossils have been found. What happened? The most accepted hypothesis is that the world itself changed around them. The mood began to fluctuate. New species of smaller, more agile predators began to emerge. The large herbivores of South America changed, reducing the abundance of ideal prey for Giganotosaurus. In the end, the titans who once reigned simply disappeared without leaving descendants. But its impact has never been erased. Now that we've uncovered Giganotosaurus's home and hunting strategies, there's still a lot to understand. How does this predator fit into the dinosaur family tree? Who were your closest relatives? And if it had survived to this day, what role would it have played in modern nature? The answer may surprise you. If you want to find out, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications, because in the next part, let's explore the Giganotosaurus lineage and reveal its deepest secrets. If you enjoyed this dive into the past, leave your like, because it helps us keep bringing you epic content like this. See you in the next part. And remember, the story of Giganotosaurus is not over yet. Blast off. Imagine a predator so big it could face a bus head-on. But now imagine that this same monster was able to run faster than a human on a motorcycle. If this already sounds impressive, wait until you find out the real secret of Giganotosaurus. In the previous part, we explored his homeland, a dangerous and wild world. But now let's take this beast apart piece by piece, like an engineer inspecting a war machine. Why Giganotosaurus? It wasn't just a gigantic predator. He was a perfect design from nature, a killer shaped by millions of years of evolution. And what you're about to discover could change everything you thought about him. There's a lot of talk about T-Rex's tiny arms. But what about Giganotosaurus? Unlike the Tyrant King, Giganotosaurus had arms proportionally much more developed. They were muscular, strong, and armed with 3 sharp claws. Now stop and think. Would a predator this size really need its hands to capture prey? The answer is surprising. Some scientists believe its claws could be used to immobilize smaller prey, functioning as a kind of deadly hook. Others suggest that these claws served for holding and tearing pieces of meat, helping to feed faster after hunting. But there is an even more disturbing possibility. What if Giganotosaurus fight each other? Many predatory dinosaur fossils show signs of injuries caused by other individuals of the same species. Scratches, bites, and even broken bones indicate that these animals not only hunted, but also fought among themselves, whether for territory, food, or mates. If Giganotosaurus hunted in groups, as many believe, then these battles could be domination rituals within the pack hierarchy. Studies show that Carcharodontosaurids, the Giganotosaurus group, had ridges and roughness on the skull, structures that could be used for display or even combat. Perhaps these disputes were decided based on impact, with violent headbutts, in the same way that some modern animals do. What if a Giganotosaurus suffered a fractured skull during one of these battles? Well, in a world without hospitals and without cures, that meant certain death. Compared to T-Rex, its brain was relatively smaller for body size. But that doesn't mean he was stupid. He belonged to a group of dinosaurs that demonstrated social behavior and strategic hunting, something that requires more advanced levels of coordination and planning. His brain, despite being smaller, had a structure that suggested excellent motor coordination, keen vision, and perhaps even communication between individuals in the group. This makes sense when we consider that, to take down a titanosaur, a coordinated attack would be much more efficient than a solo approach. And if you think dinosaurs were just mindless monsters, think again. Today, birds are direct descendants of dinosaurs, and some of them are incredibly intelligent, like crows and parrots, which solve complex problems and use tools. Could Giganotosaurus have been smarter than we think? Now that we have uncovered its anatomy and lethal weapons, we need to answer an intriguing question. And if he really lived in packs, what was the hierarchy like among these giants? These answers are in the next part. Then, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications, because we are just beginning to reconstruct the story of this monster from the past. And if this content left you impressed, leave your like, because it helps us continue to bring you these epic recreations of prehistory. See you soon! And remember, the age of dinosaurs never ended, it just changed shape. Blast off! Imagine yourself alone in a world where size dictates the rules. You are surrounded by predators that can swallow you whole and prey that can crush you with a single blow. In this brutal game of nature, a mistake doesn't just mean failure, it means death. Now think, how could a gigantic predator like Giganotosaurus survive? The answer may surprise you. In the last few minutes, we've explored Giganotosaurus's deadly anatomy, its terrifying speed, and its hunting strategies. But there is one detail that could change everything we imagine about this dinosaur. The greatest risk of living in a group, it didn't just come from the fangs, but of other Giganotosaurus. Whenever predators share a territory or work together, an inevitable question arises. Who is in charge? Fossil evidence shows that many carnivorous dinosaurs had bite marks and scars made by others of the same species as discussed in the video. This suggests that they were fighting each other, whether for food, territory, or partners. If Giganotosaurus was a social predator, this meant that disputes within the group could be as deadly as any hunt. Now imagine, after a large slaughter, the gang gathers around the carcass of an Ankylosaurus. But there are a problem. The food is not enough for everyone. Imagine yourself alone in a world where size dictates the rules. You are surrounded by predators that can swallow you whole and prey that can crush you with a single blow. In this brutal game of nature, a mistake doesn't just mean failure, it means death. Now think, how could a gigantic predator like Giganotosaurus survive? The answer may surprise you. In the last few minutes, we've explored Giganotosaurus's deadly anatomy, its terrifying speed, and its hunting strategies. But there is one detail that could change everything we imagine about this dinosaur. The greatest risk of living in a group, it didn't just come from the fangs, but of other Giganotosaurus. Whenever predators share a territory or work together, an inevitable question arises. Who is in charge? Fossil evidence shows that many carnivorous dinosaurs had bite marks and scars made by others of the same species as discussed in the video. This suggests that they were fighting each other, whether for food, territory, or partners. If Giganotosaurus was a social predator, this meant that disputes within the group could be as deadly as any hunt. Now imagine, after a large slaughter, the gang gathers around the carcass of an Ankylosaurus. But there are a problem. The food is not enough for everyone. This could explain why some fossils were found alone, far from any group. Maybe they were young men who were unable to establish their own band and were forced to wander until they found territory. What if this was the fate of Carolini, our protagonist? Now imagine Carolini, an adult female Giganotosaurus, surrounded by her packmates. But something changed. She is no longer the dominant predator. The younger males are growing up, and the tension is increasing every day. Her body bears scars from old battles, and she feels that her time is coming to an end. In the next fight for food, she loses the fight. The new leader kicks her out. Without a group, without protection, without easy access to food, Carolini faces a cruel fate. Survive alone in a world where everything works against her. Now her only option is to hunt without the support of the pack. But when a lone Giganotosaurus faces an adult titanosaur, the outcome is inevitable. And in the next part, we will witness the last day of Carolini. What happened to Carolini when she was alone? And what was it the last day of South America's largest predator? You can't miss this final part. Then subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications because this monster's journey isn't over yet. And if this story grabbed you, leave your like for more epic narratives like this. See you soon. Wildlife never forgives. Blast off. Every creature has an end. Be it a small bird that falls from its nest or a titan that has reigned for millions of years. No predator is invincible. No empire lasts forever. And for Carolinians, the Giganotosaurus that was once the queen of its territory, that end has come. Expelled from the gang, isolated in a land where the only law was survival, she was about to face her greatest challenge, a challenge that no other Giganotosaurus could overcome. And now, you will witness your last day. The scorching afternoon sun reflects on the shallow waters of the river. Small dinosaurs run among the trees, and giant insects fly over the surface, creating gentle ripples. But for Carolini, time is running out. She hasn't eaten in days. Your body no longer responds like it used to. Your muscles are slower, your vision is blurred. Hunger isn't just a nuisance, it's a warning. If I don't get prey now, she will never make it again. And then, she sees. On the horizon, a group of Andysaurus moves slowly towards the river. Their elongated shadows dance over the hot earth, and among them, an inexperienced young man moves a little away from the group. This is the moment she has been waiting for. His eyes fix on the cub. A unique chance. She advances. Every muscle in its body contracts as it darts toward its prey. The earth trembles beneath its gigantic paws. The cub hesitates. His instincts are screaming at him to run, but he is too young to understand the danger. Carolini opens its serrated mouth. Another second, and the bite will be accurate. But something happens. One bang cuts the air. The shadow appears out of nowhere. The Andysaurus adulto, more than 18 meters long, turns its immense head and sees the attack. In a brutal reflex, he raises his hind legs and strikes Carolini with the force of a rockfall. The impact is devastating. Your skull, your greatest weapon, is now your undoing. The bones cannot resist. She falls. The world revolves around you. The sound of the Andysaurus moving away echoes in his ears, but his mind no longer processes reality. His eyes look up at the orange-red sky. The same sky she has watched grow and change for decades. The same sky under which she hunted, fought, and dominated. And there, lying in the hot dust of Patagonia, she feels the weight of time finally reach it. Carolini closes her eyes, and your story ends. Carolini's body will become part of the earth. His skeleton, slowly buried by the passage of time, will await millions of years until discovered. When humans emerge and begin excavating the past, perhaps they will find its bones and reconstruct its history. Perhaps a paleontologist, centuries in the future, will wonder how she lived, how she hunted, how she died. And today, we are here, telling your story. But that wasn't just the end of Carolini. This was the end of Giganotosaurus. For millions of years, the Giganotosaurus reigned as the biggest predators in South America. But something happened. Starting 90 million years ago, they disappeared. Unlike the asteroid impact that wiped out the dinosaurs at the end of the Cretaceous, the extinction of Giganotosaurus was a slow, silent process. Changes in the environment reduced the availability of gigantic prey. Without titans to hunt, a predator like Giganotosaurus couldn't support himself, and new predators were emerging. Euabalosaurids, smaller but more adaptable dinosaurs, took control of South American ecosystems. The world of Giganotosaurus no longer existed. And so, kings have fallen. Think for a moment. What happened to Giganotosaurus is not so different from what happens in the world today. Large predators depend on abundant prey. But when the environment changes, when resources disappear, the giants are the first to fall. We see this now with the big cats, the sharks, the bears. Predators that once reigned, but now struggle to survive because the world is no longer the same. The story of Giganotosaurus. It's not just about the past. It is a reflection of the present. And the question remains, are we destined to follow the same path? Giganotosaurus may have disappeared millions of years ago, but its impact remains. Each fossil, each discovery, each reconstruction brings a little bit of this titan back to life. And today, you were part of it. You followed Carolini's journey. You've seen the rise and fall of one of the greatest predators that ever lived. But the story of dinosaurs, it doesn't end here. There is much more to discover. Many secrets still buried in the earth. And if you want to continue exploring this incredible past, subscribe to the channel now. Turn on notifications because in the next video, let's travel even deeper into the age of dinosaurs. And if this journey has kept you here, like and comment. If you could see a living dinosaur today, which one would you choose? Thank you for being part of this story. And remember, dinosaurs may be extinct, but their legacy will never disappear. Blast off.